How to use React Free Fiber with WordPress. Here's what we're going to be creating. Okay guys, so here's the scenario. We have a WordPress website set up in a local development server. If I just run that and open the website, we can see we've got a really basic layout using Bootstrap components. We can log in and go to the back end. You can see the plugins which we're using: Advanced Custom Fields Pro, Advanced Custom Fields Extended, and also Yoast. If we go into our ACF and we can go and find our page builder, which is a load of flexible components. We can see we've got hero row, content with image flipped. Each one of these gets linked to a template, which I'll show you in a second. If we go to our pages, click edit homepage, we can see I've added these components in here, and we can just click add section, add component, we click update, and view page. That gets reflected on the front end, and we should have two with the image on the right. So just to show you what that looks like in the back end, we go to WP content, themes, our theme, head over to templates, and the ones I've connected up here. We've got hero row, we've got content with flipped image and content image template. I haven't connected them up to any fields just yet, because that's not what I'll be going through in the tutorial, but there's the HTML which represents the sections. And what we want to do is connect up our React Free Fiber scene. So if we open an integrated terminal here, npm run dev, open that up. Let's imagine we've got this scene, and instead of the centered hero here, we want to add this element as a nice hero at the top of our website. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so let's get started with the tutorial. I'm not going to go through setting up the WordPress website, but what we will do is set up our React Free Fiber scene from scratch. In this lesson we'll be using Vite, and I'll explain why later. But for now, I've got a basic scene folder on my desktop, which I've opened in VS Code. I'm going to open a new integrated terminal, and we're going to run npm create Vite latest, enter, okay to proceed, yes. Project name, we're going to do // and that will create it in this folder. Tap down to React, and we're going to use JavaScript. Now it's telling us to run npm install. That might take a little while to go through, but once it's done we can then run npm run dev, and we can check that works. There we go. So let's go back and hit Control-C on your keyboard just to cancel that off, because there's a few packages that we want to do. Go ahead and install React Free Fiber and Dre. And let's just run npm run dev again. Command to click on that, give it a refresh. It's still working, which is all good. Okay, so now with them installed, let's go ahead and do a little bit of cleanup. We don't need strict mode. Save that, and let's go over into our app and paste over the top. So now in our app we've got our canvas, a couple of lights, and should just have a square with some orbit controls. We don't need the set count, we can get rid of that. And we can get rid of these for now as well. Click save, head back to our app. We've now got a cube on our screen. If we inspect that, we can see it's not full height at the moment, so we just need to fix that. Let's go into our index.css, and we can just add hash root, paste some styles I have here already, save them out, give it a refresh, and now it's fitting the whole viewport and it's a bit bigger. Cool. Okay, so now we've got our basic React Free Fiber scene. How do we then use this within our WordPress website? So let's go back to the start. If you know anything about React, we have our main index.html file, and we have a div with an ID of root, and our script gets attached to that, as we can see in the main JSX file, document get element by ID root. Now if we wanted to, we could change that to be called basic scene, save it. That won't work because we have to update this to be called the same basic scene, and this then attaches itself to that div. Give it a refresh, Now our styles don't work, so if we go back to our index.css, and we can call this basic scene, save, and it's full screen again. So with that in mind, if we were to create a div within our WordPress website called basic scene, which we'll do now, here's our WordPress website, let's open that up and let's close that off. We've got our hero row, just ignore this one for now, we'll use that later. The one that's actually connected up is this template.php. So if you see I update this, write some jargon in there, give it a refresh, it updates. So what we can actually do, just get rid of this, give it an ID of basic scene, save. And so the next step is we need to somehow attach our React application to this basic scene div in our WordPress site. So let's go back over to our React app, and what we can do is do npm run build, wait for that to go through. You should have a new dist folder up here, and the file we're interested in at the moment is just this index file, index.js. Let's copy all of that and let's head back over to our WordPress site, and let's just create a new file in here and call it basic scene.js, and let's paste all of that in, click save. Now let's just connect that script up, so script source equals, let's just copy relative path, and let's just close that off, click save, go back over to our WordPress site, and we've got that cube in there. And the one thing that we haven't done is set any styles for this, so what we could do is copy them over, or just write it in line for now, position, relative height 100, viewport height, width 100, viewport width. Let's just do that for now, click save. That's now in our WordPress site working nicely. So this is all good up until we run into a few issues when we're including assets like GLB files and using our own models and images, etc. So I'm just going to show you what happens when we do that. So let's say that we've got a different React free fiber scene. Let's just open this one up. So this is slightly different to our cube. We've now loaded an asset, this Lamborghini car, and theoretically we should be able to do the same as we did with our cube. So if I just run npm run build, and we go ahead into our dist folder, we go ahead and get our index.js file, and we go over into our WordPress installation, and let's just go ahead and update our script with the new script basic scene.js. Let's get rid of that and paste that in there, save. It's not showing, and if we go over into the console, so we need to load in our model. Okay, so if we go ahead and do that, let's go over into the public folder and let's just drag that somewhere into our theme just for now. And what we want to do is check this script, and if we type in Eurus transformed, you can see it's being linked there. Now the path that we actually want to link to is copy relative path, and we want to basically replace what's in here with our updated path. And then if we have a look again just to see whether it's in there, and we can see there it is. So if we replace that, click save, we should be able to load that in, and that's working. So that's all cool, but ideally we don't want to be copying and pasting JavaScript and then updating all of the paths all the time. So I'll show you how we can kind of automate that using Vite and configuring the Vite setup, just so we can set up this path and it will automatically generate for us. Okay, so let's head back over into our React Free Fiber project, and what you want to do is find the Vite config file. At the moment it's just your standard setup. I've got some code here which I've set up so we can define a theme folder, and if we head on down during the build process, what we want to do is just essentially set up the different asset types. So assets includes, we want GLB and GLTF, and then that means when we loop through during the compiling stage, we can see whether it's an image and create a new folder called images, and our files will go into that. And if it's a model, it will go ahead and create a new folder called models and output it there. So if I save that out and we go ahead and do npm run build, now you'll see this updates on the left hand side, and we've got our folder, WP content themes, assets, we've got our CSS file, we've got our JavaScript, and you'll notice we haven't got our models folder. So the reason for this is at the moment our GLB, our Lamborghini model, is in the public folder. So these rules won't actually get applied unless they're in this asset folder here. So we can drag that over. Once that's in the assets folder, we then need to update the import for the model. So rather than doing this, we just need to import the model from our assets folder and then update this here to load that model. And then we also just need to update here too, save that out, and then we can go ahead and run npm run build. And you'll notice we've now got models US transformed. And if we check our JavaScript file, we can actually search WP content, and you'll see we've got our full URL. So from here, all we need to do is go ahead and copy the assets folder, head over into our WordPress website. In our theme, just paste it, assets, we've got our JavaScript file, which we can call advanced scene, and then we just need to link up bootstrap components, hero row, and instead we can update this path to be /assets /js /advanced scene. If we give this a refresh, we'll see that's now working, and that's automatically done without having to update the links manually within the compiled JavaScript. What happens if the customer decides that they want to be able to update these little captions here? So to do this, we can actually expose our custom fields to the REST API, and we can pull through this data from our backend, all of these points here, and then go ahead and use them inside our React application. So at the moment they're just hard coded in. First of all, we need to go ahead and set up our custom fields. So within advanced custom fields, I've set up an options page. So if we go back to our WordPress installation, you'll see in functions.php, we've set up this options page here. From here, we need to go into and add a new field group, call it 3D car options, and we can go ahead and set up a repeater with the different data you want to pull through. So I've got a caption here and the position, and if we go ahead and check that out, this is how it looks back end, caption, position, and we can add as many of them as we want. Each of these then gets pulled through into this REST API endpoint, which I've set up in the functions.php too. As you can see here, we're setting up this REST API endpoint, and the callback is running this function here, which gets all the options fields. So let's stick with that for now. Now we're going to head over onto another new React free fiber project, which is very similar to the one we had before, apart from this time the data here is being pulled through from our REST API endpoint. So you've got HUD, motion sensors, uncrackable alloys, and hybrid taillights, which should be reflected here. So let's head back on over and I'll run you through this. So we've got our index.html file. It has an ID of technology wrap. From here, if we go to our main.jsx file, we're attaching ourselves to that div and we're running the app. If we go to the app, we can see we've got basic scene set up, some orbit controls, and we've got our elements in the scene. Let's head over to the elements. Within this file, we've got our fetch URL, which is the REST API endpoint. And what we're going to do is essentially create a state for annotations, and we're going to set annotations. And we're going to do that once we fetch the URL, we've got a response, we set the data from that URL endpoint. Once we have annotations, we're going to render our annotations component passing through the data. So we scroll up now, we've got props. We're going to set captions to be props.data. So that essentially is all of this data here. And we can map through this array, pass through the caption and the index, and we can go ahead and get the position. So position equals caption, position X, Y, Z, and then we can render an annotation component and set the data to be title caption.caption and position set to be the position which we've grabbed from above. Now if I click onto this, all this does is pass through these props. We've got a sphere and we've got some HTML which renders our title. So it's nothing too complex. If you follow all of that, you should. This is our React app. At the moment, we haven't built the file, so let's go ahead and do that now. npm run build. That should give us everything we need in here. I'm just going to grab the JavaScript from there, and let's head back over into our WordPress site, and let's just paste that in, save it out, and I reckon it won't work just because we've called the div something else. There we go, we've got some errors there. So what I need to do is go ahead and modify the hero row and call this technology wrap to match the target div of the React tab. And there we go, that's all working nicely. And what I can do is go over into the options page, and we can change this to test update, and we should have test there. So how do I get a preview on the back end? What we do is go over into our 3D car options file, and all I've done is create a little message field, and we've got div id technology wrap config, and we've manually set a style in here, and we basically want to change our React app to attach to that. So if we go back, we can close this off, and let's go back to our main, save that, change the div, save that out, and let's say we wanted on the back end the car to be red, so we can go ff0000 and npm run build. A JavaScript will give us this. Let's head back over into our public folder, and in assets let's create a new one called advanced scene backend.js. Let's paste all of that in there, save it out, and we need to head back over into our functions.php because we need to include the script backend. So we can use this code here, and we're going to basically unqueue the JavaScript. So let's link that up, and we're going to copy that name there. We're just going to paste it over the top. Let's save that out. Let's head back over into our car options, and that's now loading the JavaScript. So we can do another test update, and that will update there too. So you can see the power of this. We can actually show the user backend a simpler view of what's shown on the front end, and they both get updated because they're showing the same data. There's one final thing. If you wanted to, you could load some CSS styles. You notice that I did them manually in the car options. You see that there. I just set a height to it, but you could create your own admin style sheet and output and connect it up there too. And what you know, you can have a separate script for the back end and front end. That means that you could just have the car and orbit controls on the back end just to display a preview, and on the front end you can follow one of my previous tutorials and have something cool like this, where the car animates on scroll, which I think looks really clean. Okay guys, so just before I let you go, here's another project I've been working on. As you can see, you can drive around our own car, and we've got physics, so we can hit the ball, and we can go up the side of here and stuff like that. And if I just go over to another project here, there's a cool little simple dashboard, similar style to Fortnite, which I thought looked pretty cool. If this is the kind of content that you want to see in the future, just remember to drop me a like, hit subscribe button, and let me know in the comments anything you're unsure of or any other ideas you may have. Cheers.